John Gill's Exposition of the entire Bible, verse by verse. Revelations chapter 6, verse 6, being read by Dr. Peter John. Scripture quote, "And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say," unquote. John Gill quote, "Not the voice of Agabus to the Apostle Paul in Acts chapter 11, verse 28, but rather of Christ who was in the midst of them." Revelations 5:6. The Ethiopic version adds, quote, "as the voice of an eagle," unquote. Scripture quote, "A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny," unquote. John Gill quote, "Choenix. The measure here used signifies as much as was sufficient for a man for one day, as a penny was the usual hire of a laborer for a day in Matthew chapter 20, verse 2. So, a coenix of corn was allotted to each person in xer army for a day, according to Herodias. The same quantity for a day was given by the Romans to their shepherds and servants, and is generally said to be about 2 pounds. According to Acrola, that's Agricola, it was 2 pounds and a quarter. This measure was very different. The ATTIC and then CHOENIX was a measure that held 3 pounds. The Italian 4 pounds, and the military 5 pounds. The answers to the Hebrew KAB and the Septuagint version of Ezekiel chapter 45, verse 10. Reading from the King James Bible, quote, "Ye shall have just balances, and a just Ephraim, and a just bath," unquote. It answers to the bath, and some make it to be the 4th part of a bushel, and others half a bushel. The first account of its being about 2 pounds, and the allowances of a man for a day seems best to agree with this place, so that this phrase expresses such a scarcity as that a man's daily wages would be but just enough to buy himself bread, without anything to eat with it, and when he would have nothing left for clothes and other things, nor anything for his wife and children," unquote. Scripture quote, "And see that thou hurt not the oil and wine," unquote. John Gill quote, "signifying that this scarcity should fall not upon the superfluities, such as oil and wine, which may be spared and men can live without, but upon the necessities of life, particularly bread." Some render the words, quote, "and be not unjust in the oil and wine," unquote, and so think they refer to the laws of the Roman emperors in relation to wine and oil, and to the just execution of them, that they might be plenty of them, and others understand them to be an allegory sense in the principal doctrines of the gospel compared to oil and wine, and which Christ takes care of, that they shall not be hurt and destroyed by heretics and false teachers, even when they prevail the most, and bring on a famine of the word, when the church is blackened and darkened with them, and indeed these may much better be applied to the gospel than as they are by the Jews to the law, who frequently say that the law is called oil, and speak of the wine of the law," unquote. End of John Gill's Revelations chapter 6, verse 6.